think you might be able to tell by the smile on my face. I'm very pleased to say Steve Backshall is here on dry land for once. Steve, it is fantastic to have you in the studio. Can we start with that really alarming statistic? So many children are just unaware of what is going on in the rest of the world. Leslie couldn't name 10 countries.
Yeah, I'm not sure how surprised I was by this. This is research by Monopoly that shows that kids know more about Gotham City and Zootropolis and Neverland than they do about the real cities of the world. And, I'm not entirely surprised by this, but it is, I think, a kind of call to action. And it is an awareness that we all need to have, that young people need to have their imaginations stoked, because they're not going to want to have any part in saving a planet that they know next to nothing about.
And it's not necessarily about them having to hop on a plane and go to Belize or Peru or Paraguay or wherever. It's just to inspire in them a desire to find out more about the rest of the world.
Absolutely. Although I have to say, I do not discourage travel.
No, of course not. But you clearly couldn't, given the number of places you've been.
Yeah, I would be the world's greatest hypocrite if I was to. And travel has been such a foundation in everything I do and everything that I am. And also, I think it's a massive thing that's instilled in me how much our planet's changing and how that is in many ways in a negative way, in other ways in a potentially positive way as well. I think young people need to see that. Young people learn in an experiential way, don't they?
Well, just exactly on that topic. I mean, I grew up in a part of the world with rolling hills and plenty of wildlife on my doorstep. In fact, my son and I just returned from a few days up in Scotland where we had a pheasant just sitting on the back wall, where we had yellowbacks fighting wasps in one corner, we had grey herons, we had guillemots, we had all of this. Now, if you don't have that ability to pop out and see wildlife where you are, then how do you inspire in kids this desire to go and explore, to go climb, to go and get muddy and dirty and all the rest of it?
I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head there. The key is that you can start small. You can start in a city park. You can start in your back garden. No adventurer makes Everest their first ever mountain.
That's true.
We all start with the things that are familiar to us, the things that are on our back doorstep. And here in the UK, that can be surprisingly amazing. Our wildlife is massively underrated. Our wild spaces are the equal of just about anywhere else in the world. And we need to be encouraging young people to get out there and get mud under their fingernails and experience it for themselves.
A word, though, for the parents, because the thing, my parents were both biologists, so I had a bit of an interest in all of this from an early age. But I've discovered things like there are apps for your phone that you can point at insects or plants and they will identify them. There are plenty of books. Bird watching, we go to the Barnes Wetland Centre very, very regularly. Last time we were there, we spotted 30 different species. But I had that interest. If you were a parent who themselves doesn't know very much about what is going on out there in the world, what advice would you give to them?
So I think all of those things are really important. It's very tempting for someone in my position to kind of just get rid of the online world and sort of dismiss it as being irrelevant. But it's a very valuable tool for helping us to engage with the wild world. I mean, something as simple as birdsong apps, for example, that you can have on your phone, where you can be walking through a city park and you hear a bird call and think, I have no idea what that is. And find out what the bird is, find out what the bird's saying. Those simple things that work in a language that young people automatically already understand can be incredibly valuable.
I've got another recommendation. What you could do is you could sit down with your children and watch some Steve Backshall on the telly. I mean, your series on Sharks, Deadly 60. Genuinely, on behalf of parents up and down the country, the enthusiasm that you bring to the topic punches its way through the screen. And any child who's even the vaguest interest in this stuff, after watching you, will want to get out there and do it. Genuinely, I mean, you must know. You must have kids coming running up to you all the time, surely.
It's the most amazing thing. And I find that wildlife, particularly wildlife, has a capacity to connect with kids, and particularly, certain kinds of kids. Kids that might not necessarily be the most popular kid in school. Kids that may have difficulties or struggles another way can connect to the wild world in an empathetic sense, which can be incredibly moving. And yes, you're absolutely right. I have that incredible thing of young kids coming up to me going, oh, what's it like to dive with a great white shark? What's it like to have a rattlesnake in your hands? And that's an amazing thing. I'm making a series on whales for Sky right now.
Brilliant.
And I'm going to be heading up to the Arctic next week to dive with orca, face to face with the most extraordinary predator on our planet, what an opportunity. If that was the one thing I got to do in my life, then everything would be worthwhile.
I tell you, there's one little man that I know who's going to be very, very keen to watch that particular thing. But of course, some of these shows, particularly the ones that are aimed at kids, you can't show everything that happens to you. You must have had a couple of dicey moments, particularly whilst filming, a series on the world's deadliest creatures.
Well, fewer than you would imagine.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very rarely the kind of creatures that people would expect. It's not the sharks. It's not the big cats. It tends to be either small things. We get constantly plagued by leeches and mites and ticks and all those kind of nasties, particularly if you're spending any time in the tropical rainforest for a long time. But also things like hippos. Hippos, which appear to be this nice, big, cuddly creature, are the absolute...
As my son tells me, the most dangerous animal on the planet, and just watch out for hippos. Funnily enough, we don't have many of them round these parts, so I'm OK for the moment. Steve, as I say, on behalf of mums and dads and kids up and down the country, thank you so much for what you...